But I mean, I think tonight we'd love to talk to you about Hellraiser, mate, and how you got into it and how it all came to be.
Right. Well, it certainly was a life changer, a great movie. Of course, when we were working on it, we weren't that it was going to become quite the thing it is now. And the only reason why I got this project is, well, I've been a UCLA student, and it so happened that a couple of students put together some features for their senior projects. One of them was released. Well, actually, they both were released. One was called The Dorm That Dripped Blood. That was my first film. Anyway, it came to the attention of the gentleman who was then the post-production head at New World Pictures, Tony Randall, who ultimately directed Hellbound.
Which is also a fucking incredible movie with a great score.
It's a great, that's actually, strangely, it's my favorite of the two.
Yeah. It's like the most batshit crazy movie ever to be released.
What, the most what?
It's like the most batshit movie to
Yeah,
ever be
it's
released.
insane. It's insane. I mean, I think there's a scene in there that I would have to say probably was the single most repulsive scene I ever had to score. And, so anyway, lo and behold, Tony Randall, again, the head of post-production at New World, became a fan of my stuff. He heard about me and invited me over to do a trial by fire in scoring the trailer for, what was the film was again? Philadelphia Experiment.
Yeah.
Philadelphia Experiment. He liked it. He said, okay, I've got these pictures that came in from Canada that we've now picked up the rights for. I want you to rescore them. So I rescored them. I did like about 8 or 9 movies at New World. Of course, this was the big one. Clive originally wanted to use a band that he was familiar with. They were sort of an industrial thing when this was new, called Coil. And their stuff was absolutely great, fantastic music. But they'd never scored a film before. And Tony, thank you. Tony knew that in order for a film to score in a horror film to be successful, you have to be mindful of cuts and scares, and you can't, if there's a big jump scare and the music's 3 seconds late or even a second late, it becomes funny. It turns into a comedy. So he asked the question of the guys in Coil, hey, do you understand this whole idea of needing to catch things? And they said, nah, no, we don't. So he talked Clive into bringing me on board. Clive, I think, was reluctant because the only thing he really knew of mine was the score that I'd just done beforehand, which was Nightmare on Elm Street 2. Woo! But, that is like scare factor. It's not as personal a film as this is. And he sat me down. I remember I met him. He was, they shot the whole film in England, and here I'm in Los Angeles. We met, I think, for the first and really only time. No, that's not true. We didn't meet many times because he was overseas back in England on post-production.
So you had got involved while it had already started shooting, I see.
I got involved when.
Well, it had already started shooting by the time.
No, I didn't get involved until the end.
Okay, right.
Like composers are usually the last thing that come in, and the actors have already moved on, and we're just there with the picture editor, music editor, post-production, sound people. That's it. So I met him in New York City, and it was at a hotel he was staying at on the west side, right by the Central Park. And he said, I went up to his apartment, or his hotel room, and he said, I don't want one of those nightmare scores here. I said, okay, great. And he was the one who pointed out to me that indeed what made Hellraiser special from his perspective, and I got it immediately, was this is really a tragedy about a woman who falls in love with someone who's abusive, but loves him so much that she's willing to do anything to bring him back to life, And it's a sad story. And he said, you've got to capture that somehow. So lo and behold, I went back and started writing stuff. And again, I was new at this. I didn't know what the hell I was really doing when I did the score, other than the fact that I gotta make sure it's just not there to scare, but has to have some sort of emotional meaning. And I was just telling the story. Should I tell the story about
tell the story.
So we recorded the score here in LA. Yeah, it's now Ocean, it was then Ocean Way. It's now, I don't know what the name of the studio is, but in that building, in one of the smaller rooms, that's where the Wrecking Crew used to do, and Brian Wilson did like Pet Sounds and all that. We didn't record in there because it was too small, but in the main room, Frank Sinatra did stuff there too. Anyway, it was done non-union, but there was so little money on the score, for the score, that we were never able to project the picture. So when we were recording the music, the orchestra was playing to a click metronome. And that would keep them, and it was a non-variable click. You'll notice that the tempo, you wouldn't notice this, but I do. The tempos on all of these pieces of music stay the same. There's no accelerando or retard, speeding up, slowing down. Click, 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 the orchestra's there. But Clyde wasn't able to see it to picture. So it wasn't until it was transferred onto MAG and then cut to the picture, back at New World, we sat down and started watching it to the picture. And lo and behold, up comes the scene. This is the scene I can only remember when we were together. The scene in which in which Julia has the flashback and she remembers meeting Frank for the first time. And then subsequently, they make love, and there's the cutting between them making love and the father, right, the husband, going up the stairs carrying the mattress.
Yeah.
And then
before the whole thing with the nail.
The nail.
Yeah.
And that was so Clive, I guess. The pain and the ecstasy of pain. Here they are making love, they reach a climax, and at the same time he cuts his hand. And so he wanted to make sure that this was the big window where I could sell the fact that this woman was madly in love with him, and it was tragic. And so we watched this scene together in a dark little tiny room at New World Picture, an editing room, which couldn't have been much bigger than a stall in a bathroom, you know. And it ended, everyone was quiet. Tony was there, the editor was there, Clive was there, and I was there, just four of us. The thing stopped. We stood up, and I remember us being stone cold silent for a moment. And I think the first thing that went through my head was, hey, you know what? Maybe I am supposed to be a film composer. But I didn't know that up until then. And I swear to God, Clive and Tony and I, we all hugged each other. And we were exhausted. And so I'm sure I was crying. Maybe Clive was crying. Tony, I don't think so. But it was one of those true bonding moments. And I knew Clive from that moment on, understood what I was trying to do. He needed to see it to picture. I don't blame him. But once he saw that scene, it was, oh, Chris is A-okay.
What was the point when you finally, like, because like, did you know when you scored it that the movie was going to have the like impact it would? Could you tell when you saw the film first, or was it like later on?
Did I tell that the film was going to have?
Yeah, the impact.
Now, no, I don't think so. I thought it was going to be just like another New World horror film, in and out on a weekend.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was going to be as successful as Nightmare on Elm Street 2, but I think ultimately it has done better than that.
100%. Was there a moment when you realized it had like reached an audience in a different way?
Yes. It's when, of all the 150 films I've worked on, scored about 150, it's the one that invariably comes up all the time.
Yeah.
Still to this day, they go, oh yeah, Hellraiser. You're the guy that did Hellraiser. I said, oh yes, but, you know, but no, it's gonna be, I think, etched on my gravestone. that or something like that, you know.
Was
This kid's getting dragged to hell.
Yeah.
He's hellbound.
Was it like obvious after this? Did it open new doors? Was it like a?
Yeah, definitely. It definitely, you mentioned Ron in the lobby that the thing that was the normal trend in low budget horror films was to do it synth, do
Yeah.
the synth score. And I thought at first, this thing takes place in a house, right? In the majority of the picture.
Yeah.
Now, I haven't seen it since the day it came out. I just stuck my head in here and heard this and
holds
saw
up.
the tail end. And I had been, whatever, 30, how many
Yeah.
years? When did this film come out?
84.
84?
Yeah.
About 40 years? Okay. What do you say?
86 or 87.
86 or
Yeah, nearly
87.
40.
That must have been that I was 13 when I scored that. I wish. No, then I would have been the Mozart of film music.
You know the whole thing, Robert Altman's kid wrote the MASH theme tune, and he was like 14 years old.
14 years old?
And then he goes to his dad like, okay, his dad was like, oh, you can do it, and then he like has earned more residuals off the MASH theme tune than his dad ever. So it happens.
Yes, after this was completed, I started getting calls. I was being taken seriously. I guess I was taken seriously. No one ever asked me to duplicate what I had done here on this score. I used to joke that after I did this film called Jennifer 8,
Yeah.
that was a romantic thriller with
The David Caruso.
What's that?
David Caruso movie, right? Is it David Caruso? The
No.
actor. Is it?
Oh, no, it's.
Andy Garcia.
What's his name?
Andy Garcia.
Andy
Yeah,
Garcia.
I was thinking with Jay.
And Uma Thurman.
Yeah.
Okay. After I did that score, that hit a home run. That was the first thing that kind of, for a brief period of time, overshadowed Hellraiser. Because they had thrown out a score by Maurice Jarre on that one. Maurice Jarre was an Academy Award-winning composer multiple times. He did Lawrence of Arabia and Dr. Zhivago. Those were his two biggest hits. And they threw the score out. The studio, even though I'd done like 15 or 16 movies by then, they weren't for major studios. And so that was my trial by fire. Ultimately, they loved what I did, and I kept getting asked to repeat that score. I used to joke that we had Jennifer 8, then we had Jennifer 9, Jennifer 10, Jennifer 11, Jennifer 12, you know. So, anyway, Hellraiser was, I feel, of course, both blessed and cursed by it. How lucky, how God.
Were you reticent to do the sequel? Were you, like when you were asked to do Hellraiser 2, were you
Why
immediately?
did I do 3 is what you're asking me? Yeah, that's a very good question. You know, there's no better way to evaluate how a composer has advanced in their writing, well, anyone, you know, whatever their discipline is, if they get involved in a series. Now, at that time, the Omen trilogy had come out, and for me, that's just remarkable. And watch how the score grows from number 1 to number 2 to number 3. The Star Wars trilogy, at that time, the 3 had come out.
Yeah.
And the Indiana Jones, I think all 3 of those had come out.
Yeah.
Anyway, this trilogy thing was like, I gotta pull this one off. And so of course with Hellbound, they actually had more money for the score. It was never what I got paid. I never made any money off those movies. I put it back into the score because to me it was an investment into the future. Anyway, they had more money for Hellraiser. Hellraiser is a bigger score. It not only has a larger brass section, there's 8, this has 4 French horns. Hellbound has 8 French horns. This was recorded in town, that was recorded in Germany.
Okay.
And by Eric Tomlinson, who did this recording for Star Wars. He was the Star Wars guy. Anyway, so it was a bigger score with choir. And come the third one, after I'd done the second one, Tony was very happy with the second one. I think it's an advancement from the first one. Not as, again, the emotional part of the story is not as deep as Hellraiser. Come the third one, the only reason why I didn't do the third one is they cut back. Now it was time to cash in and make some money, I guess. And I think, I never really looked at the third one, but I've heard that it looks not, that the budget is.
It's not great. No.
It's kind of squeezed, right?
Do you still?
So that's the only reason why I did not do three.
Were you ever asked for
They had
any
less
other-
money for the third score than they did for the first one.
Really?
I know I can't top myself with
Were
that.
you ever asked to do any of the subsequent sequels?
Never, never.
They definitely didn't have the money.
But I think they used some of the
Yeah,
themes in the supplement. They never asked me to do.
So outside of Hellraiser, what's your favorite score?
My favorite score of horror films I've
Or
worked
just
on?
in general?
Gee, that's a tough one. Well, different scores for different reasons.
I think you told me before The Vagrant you loved, right?
Oh, The Vagrant. Yes, The Vagrant. Did anyone see this movie called The Vagrant? Okay. A weird movie, to say the least. It was produced by Mel Brooks, who gave me the best compliment I think a composer can ever get. He said to me after he heard the score, he said, "You know what, I had no idea what this movie was really all about until I heard your score." Because it's a black comedy, and black comedies are a piss to try to make work. And so, this one kind of was, did it succeed, did it fail, I don't know. Chris Walas is the director who I had worked with on The Fly 2, who was the special effects monster makeup guy from the first Fly, who then got The Fly 2. What I love about The Vagrant is that it's different. They tried temping, you know what temping means? It means they finished the film, they put some temporary music to the picture to test it. And they came to me, Chris came to me and said, "I have no idea what to do for this score. We tried putting funny music in it because it's a black comedy, and the audience was laughing through the whole movie, unfortunately. We then put some serious dark music, and they weren't laughing at all. And so it didn't really work." So he said, "I have no idea what to do for the score on this one." And the wonderful thing is that he did gave me permission to do whatever I thought was right. It was a blank slate. You know, I wasn't being guided by this temp music. And so what I like about that score is that it's an unusual group. It's
a great movie. If anybody hasn't seen it, it's actually a great movie.
You like the movie?
It's a great movie, but it's like a very have they ever redone it on Blu-ray or anything? I don't think so.
No. And poor Chris, after that movie,
Okay.
that was kind of it for him. But yes, it enabled me to do something strange with a smaller group of bizarre instruments. So it's a fun thing to watch, yeah.
Yeah,
for sure.
nice. So, I know Alex is going to say.
Oh, you know what else?
Okay.
Oh, we're
Does anybody have any questions, I guess?
Yes, I'm sort of battling.
No, you're good.
Yes, the iconic melody, how many iterations did you do for Hellraiser, and was it accepted right away?
You know, I'm trying to guess.
He was saying how many times did you have to do different versions of the...
Actually, surprisingly, not many. The scene that I remember having to redo a few times was the resurrection scene. Now, when I first did that scene, I thought, let's scare the hell out of the people. This is really a frightening moment. And they sunk a lot of money into that scene, as I recall. And, you know, when they've done that, they better come up with a piece of music which makes like this was worth the amount of money they spent on it. Create the illusion that it's bigger than life. So on that one, I did the first take on it. I remember Clive said, no, this is not right. I said, well, it was really clustery and crazy, like what I call sonic vomit. Running around, the orchestra's making a lot of racket. He said, that's not it for this. This is a month of feeling of some kind of a celebration that he's coming back to life. Now, I thought it was his idea that it should be a waltz, but he corrected me. He said, no, 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 you came up with the idea of that. It's a waltz for the resurrection of an evil dude. He's accompanied by a waltz. Okay, that's kind of weird, but it worked, and he was thrilled with it. So that one was, I think, the only scene. No, I think he pretty much approved of everything.
I don't think so.
I believe he did. I don't remember him saying, Chris, no, you gotta be kidding me. You know, so, yeah. No problem.
All right, who else is, oh, Tony, here you go.
So now that scores are done on the computer, in the 80s, when you're writing out a piece and demoing out a piece, what would you give the director? Like, did you actually record it with an orchestra, like your first iteration of a song?
Yeah, what is he saying? Now that everything's computerized, how does that change it? It's entirely different now.
Right.
Now, remember when I did Hellraiser, back in those days, we didn't have home studios, synth studios.
Right.
So when Clive was hearing the music for the first time, I was sitting at the piano and playing it for him. That's the way everyone did it. John Williams, that's a still saying, he won't do mock-ups. But then it became, you have to do mock-ups. So everything I do now, if it's written for an orchestra, it has to be mocked up, you know? And they can pick apart the mock-up so that by the time they go onto the stage, if they're going to be there when you're recording, they already know what to expect. Back in the early days, the first time they ever heard it with an orchestra was when they walked on the stage, and that was very frightening. The first time I ever heard it was on the stage with the orchestra. So, yes, the big change is that now they expect to have heard everything, and in some instances, the directors don't even show up anymore. When I did Spider-Man 3, Sam Raimi was too busy in post-production. He never came to the recording session.
That probably explains a lot about Spider-Man.
No, such a bad. Yeah, well, that was interesting. I met Stan Lee once, and he happened, it was the Magic Castle. He was sitting next to me. I said, Stan Lee, I did the score for the Spider-Man 3. He looked at me for a moment. That was the best thing about the movie. Struck gold. You know?
Who else?
Wow, I think I fell on my knees and kissed him. Anyway, so that's how it's changed things. My process of writing is different. When I did this movie and all films from this period up until about 7 years ago, I would write everything directly with pencil and paper onto the score page. Thousands of pages, scores of pages. But now, you know, I don't do that. I map it out and then do what I call studies. I get the material together that plays like a track on a record that's about the music. It's not to the movie. I mean, about the movie, not to the movie, but about the movie. And then I present those to the directors about, like I just did this on, I'm working on a new horror film called The Passenger. It's a Paramount horror film, and it's directed by Andre Overdahl, the Norwegian director who did The Autopsy of Jane Doe, The Last Voyage of the Demeter. And so, in this instance, he just came over and I played him like 50 minutes of examples of what kind of a score it could be. Option one, option two, and he then said, I like this, you know, and that's how we kind of pull it together now. I pull it together. Yes, sir.
Right up here.
Chris, I gotta know, I'm not a music guy, but I'm a lover of music and horror films, and I gotta know, there's certain iconic horror movie scores like Halloween, but for some reason, Hellraiser is just constantly looping in my mind as just the top of the top. So when you're working on these scores, are you when it clicks, is there a moment that you just recognize that this is absolutely epic and I can't get this out of my head? And are there times when certain, musicians that turn into, movie soundtrack people like Trent Reznor, for instance, that you're like, okay, these people recognize what I'm doing and I recognize what they're doing? Or are there moments when it just hits, like it clicks? This is in my brain. I can't get this, like an earworm. You know what I mean?
This is a quick answer. Absolutely not. There's never been a moment when I've worked on a score where I thought, oh my God, Chris, wow. No, I'm always in a state of panic. I'm not lying. I'm in a state of panic. Even though I've done so many not so hard films. The one I'm on right now, I'm in a state of panic. It's as if when you're starting off, it's like giving birth to something. It's amazing it comes into my head. Why does it? Where does it come from? I don't know. But I pray to God that it will come. I've never suffered from writer's block. There's always something that comes out. Whether it's good or not, I don't know. Now I mock it up, you see, so I get to hear it played back. In the early days, as I said, I used to get like so nervous. I was a chain smoker. I locked myself in the bathroom. I'm not going to say I vomited or anything, but nearly. And so I don't think anyone knows when they've hit that home run while they're working on it. Because remember, this ultimately is the audience. You guys are the ones that will listen to it. And though I think about that sort of in the abstract when I'm writing, I think I'm not dissimilar from other composers. Our audience right then is whoever is going to tell us they like it, which means the director, the editor, producers on the picture. There's some films I've worked on with the head of the movie company has been there to pass their opinions. Pet Cemetery, that had a whole truckload of people. The head of Paramount, Paramount, at that time, would come to the show and tell us and pass his opinion. And so I had to keep all that in mind. That's my audience. And if they like it, well then maybe I am doing the right thing. If they don't like it, no. And so, we don't know.
The audience, right?
Yeah, the audience is the critic. They're the ones that matter. But you guys love this movie. I wish Clive was here right now to hear this. But
You did the right thing with that thing.
he's not, I've heard he's not very well. He's kind of ill now. I don't think he goes out at all anymore. I don't, listen, I haven't even seen him for like 4 or 5 years. And the only reason why, at least 4 or 5 years, he did go to one of these conventions, and that's where I got to say hi to him. I haven't been over to his house in years. Anyway, I wish he was here to see this, because, there's nothing more rewarding at the end of the day than to realize that actually what you did when I was sitting at that upright piano in this dumpy little place that I was living at the time, affectionately called the Rat Hole, that ultimately, here it is, you guys are listening to this stuff and going, hey, this means something. That's a miracle, and I have to thank God that even though this film I did it how many, 45 years ago?
38.
Okay, I started working, I moved out here in 1980. Okay, so all these years have gone by, and this is the one that seems to influence the viewers. Not only the music, well, that's nice, but of course the picture. It's a miracle. It's a miracle. Like I said, it's going to be the one that's etched on the
Okay, we can do one more question.
Thank you all so very, very much. Other question?
We're doing one more. Thank you so much for being here. Has there ever been a project that you were asked to do and for whatever reason you declined, and then later you ended up seeing the picture and thought, oh, I actually could, not necessarily regret, but just, oh, I actually have an idea for what I could have done, but you might have declined it initially.
Can you repeat?
Yeah, has there ever been a movie that you turned down that you then saw and were like, shit, I should have done that?
Oh, yeah. Gee, good question. Which is the one that haunts me the most? Well, I'm kind of going blank here because, no, I'm sorry, I can't answer that right now. That one is jumping into my head that I so sorely regret. Hey, I wish Steven Spielberg had called me on Jaws, but he forgot to. So no, no. I haven't. Here's the thing: is I don't turn down many things. I really don't. Porno, of course, I would. It was offered to me. But a lot of horror films. Oh, yeah, there's some that I've turned down. Do I regret? I remember I was approached, the new Poltergeist, right? Remember that picture, the new
I'm
Poltergeist?
not sure you regret that one.
What's that?
I don't think you regret that one.
No, but anyway, I was opposed to the director whose name I've forgotten, unfortunately.
Gil Keenan.
Thank you. He wanted me to do it so badly. I was so honored that he wanted me to do it so badly, but I thought, this was scored by Jerry Goldsmith, the original one, and that's one of the greatest, if not, yeah, it's one of the top 5 scores for, would you call that a horror film? What do you
Yeah,
call it?
it's a great score.
Yeah,
I
it's
agree.
an absolutely miraculous score. And I thought, you know what? What's the point of doing this? I know at the end of it, I don't care how hard I try, I'm always going to feel like I came up short because I'm competing with Poltergeist, the original score. So actually, I don't regret having turned that down, but I know it kind of broke his heart a bit. So sorry, I don't have an answer for that one quickly.
That's a good answer, to be fair. Well, look, we have to wrap it up, but can we all just say round of applause for Chris?
Again, I tell you, this is truly a bright moment in my life. I'm going to remember this. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, all of you hardcore Hellraisers that are going to the after party, if you have a ticket but you don't yet have a red wristband, go to